I have a unique and compulsive desire to have order and conversions and leads generated when it comes to marketing websites. And I want to share with you why this is so important when you're serving your clients and how you can shift from a freelance piecemeal copywriter or marketer into an agency model that delivers to you higher value, higher service, greater revenues, and more consistent clients who pay, stay, and refer. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. We help copywriters level up their business. Now, I'm going to share with you the most easiest way, and just to get it out of the way, the easiest way to go from freelance copywriter to a agency model that produces more consistent income. And then I'm going to share with you some specifics when it comes to how we use analytics and how we help the customer or client be more intelligent about their application of marketing dollars. It starts here as you as a freelance copywriter having an assistant or someone on your team who is constantly looking for new projects for you. So you're working on one project, and rather than having the roller coaster income of finding a project and then working that project and getting paid and then having a gap before you find the next project, you essentially have either a network of people or a virtual assistant or somebody on your team whose job it is to find you the next project. They follow your model. You still might be writing a proposal, but again, they're taking care of the administrative side of the business. And when I share that, it's actually in our program called Staffing Arbitrage. When I share that concept of having an assistant take care of the scheduling, the high level project management, the accounting and bookkeeping, these other elements of your freelance business, the first objection I get from folks is it's going to cost me money and that's going to take away from the rate. Okay, so my response is it costs you money to do the work yourself. So could it cost you a little less money than you're doing right now and therefore increasing your margin? My response is your rate appropriate for the type of work that you're doing? There's a conversation to be had there because what you're doing there is you're focusing on your business rather than the service to the client. When you are able to free up your time, you're able to create higher quality content for your clients. So that means better research, better sales hooks, better call to actions, better written copy. Because again, as a copywriter, you're doing creative stuff, you're writing copy rather than chasing down the last client that didn't pay on time, or organizing the next client on your calendar, or working out some accounting issue that had to do with some local government person. The thing of it is when you have somebody take care of these things, and it could be a bookkeeper, a CPA, it could be a virtual assistant, it could be somebody in your office, it could be a where you're working as a partner in another organization. Doesn't really matter how you do it. It's just if you're doing it all by yourself, you're not going to be able to do what is necessary and what your customers desire. Another thing your customers, your clients desire is to being able to promote channels effectively. So in today's world, it is multi-channel marketing. Back in the day, it was outbound telephone, letters, maybe a prospect newsletter. Today, it's still outbound telephone, letters, prospect newsletter, YouTube channel, Rumble channel, uh, podcast, audio podcast, video podcast. It could be social media. It could be 5 different social media platforms. Your clients are overwhelmed. In the same concept where they come to you for additional support on the marketing side to promote their channels effectively, which means proper attribution for each channel so you know where leads come from, proper attribution from each channel so you know where sales come from, lead generation so you can test ideas and concepts, therefore to go produce high quality content. It just leaves me wondering why copywriters create so much extra work for themselves by trying to take care of the administrative part of the business. Again, what is it that your client wants? The more you can deliver what the client wants and what the client desires and what benefits the client in a measurable way, because remember, we do accountable direct response marketing. The more you can do that, the higher you can charge on rates. See, your client doesn't want a copywriter or a marketer who takes 3 weeks to get a project done when they've only got 2 weeks to get it done or they want it done overnight. Now, I'm not suggesting that you get work done overnight. You do want to do work the right way. But again, if you are spending, it's tax season and now you're too slow getting the work done, that tax work is not billable to your clients. So how do you pay for it? You pay for it out of overhead. Well, if you're going to pay for it out of overhead anyway, why not get somebody to help you at least in managing your time, because managing time for client projects is different than managing time for bookkeeping, accounting, follow up, contact management, managing your own channels. So again, the freelancer to agency model doesn't have to be 20 people in the office. It doesn't have to be a nice downtown location. It can simply be getting the help that you need to structure your business so that you can engage more with the client, deliver more quality to the client, and ultimately focus on the skills that pay. Another skill that pay is staying up to date with the latest trends. So I manage a number of YouTube channels, websites, and other marketing channels. I make sure the attributions are straight. We just had this Google Analytics change from their previous platform to GA4. There is a lot of technical work to be done there in order to make sure the client is up to date, to make sure the lead and source attribution comes over, to make sure WordPress plugins or other platform plugins are functioning the way they're supposed to. And if this is not your skill set, you need to hire somebody like what we've got on our team in order to help you with these time consuming and challenging problems that you'll face. Essentially, how do you know the copy stopped working if all the analytics broke before you got to that point? How do you know what works and what doesn't? Headline testing. That has been a horrendous problem. So, what we do sometimes is we'll set up headline tests on high traffic content sites, and then the goal of a headline test is engagement, and we'll figure out which headlines get the engagement. And so engagement is click through to read the article. We measure reading the article as scrolling down 60% of the page and staying on the page for basically a little bit of time. They can't just drop on the page, scroll down, and leave. That is a real measure. If that type of thing is not set up, and you don't have the appropriate tools, and you're not using modern technologies and methodologies, your client will not know the difference. But the measures you get will be inaccurate, so you won't be able to implement these points. Again, another thing you should be doing is engaging with your audience. Being in front of a audience is a way to keep your customers coming back. So let's say you've served 100 clients over the last year, and you've done this on a one-to-one basis as a freelancer. Are you doing quarterly events to invite those people back? And then when you do those events, who's managing the Zoom call? Who's handling the scheduling? Who's handling the follow-up email? Who's handling the post campaign? Now I know you're capable of designing all this stuff, but the administrative of it, again, that's why we have at least one person on staff. Now I tend to have two or three people on staff. I tend to have graphic artists on a list somewhere. And so if I need them on a project, I can bring them on freelance. I don't have to have these people sitting around the office waiting for work. That creates all different problems. The type of agency that we're talking about is building a team, whether it's your team or a collaborative team, or you're on a larger team. It's engaging with your audience in a meaningful way so that you can get them into a sales funnel. And finally, you want to be measuring results. You want to help the client measure accurate results and know where subscribers are coming from, know where the leads are coming from, know where the sales are coming from. Nothing else matters. Now, I know I talk about engagement. If you don't have conversions, you need to measure engagement. But once you have lead conversion and sales conversion, if you have a lead, that implies engagement. So you don't have to have engagement measures, time on page, or anything like that if you're generating leads and those leads are buying products and services. Again, if you're stuck in the mindset where you're doing all the work or you're just writing the copy and you're not providing the value added services, you may miss those nuances that change as your client matures. So another question that comes up regularly is how to keep clients, and it is maturing with the client. And again, if all you are is a freelancer, those are dime a dozen. You want to be somebody who can deliver the extra value, who can be working on 2 or 3 projects at a time, who has a funnel that brings in new clients, who has a team in place that has procedurals and activities that they do to keep things moving forward. You may even be training new people to do copywriting or training new people to do administrative work that's tied to billable hours, so that now your assistant is also helping you perhaps assemble research. Okay, they don't need to understand the research in order to assemble it. They might be going to image database that you have licensing rights to and collecting images appropriate for a particular campaign and building a small image library for you. And then, of course, documenting the rights for those particular images so that when you're building out a landing page or a name squeeze or a feature image, you've got half the work done before you are, you know, swamped and tied down with all these extras. Now, a lot of folks push back on this again because they see themselves as a copywriter, not as a manager. And I'm saying that both of those are wrong. You have to see yourself as a marketer of copywriting services. And then how do you fulfill those services? You fulfill them with a team. You may not have to manage anybody other than yourself. But in order to manage yourself, you've got to take things off your plate that get in the way of serving clients, that get in the way of billable work. So here's an exercise that you can do. If you sit down with a pad of paper next to your desk where you're working, and then over the course of the day, each 15 minutes, write down what it is that you're doing at that time. Now, you can use a timer, you can use just, look at the clock and every 15 minutes, just write down what you're doing. And then at the end of the day, you want to take three types of highlighters. One activity you're going to highlight that can only be done by you. So maybe this is green. This is the money making activity that can only be done by you. Now, I caveat that it's a money making activity, but there are certain things that only can be done by you. Highlight those in green. Then you're going to have yellow. Those are items that it's probably best to be done by you, but doesn't really have to be done by you as long as they can have consistent results. So that's going to be things like data entry. It's going to be things like following up on past work or getting the prospect newsletter out the door. You might write it, but you hand it off to somebody to load it into the autoresponder or to get it out the door. That's a yellow activity. And then finally, there are red activities, things that if somebody else did the work, even if they did it half as good as you, it wouldn't matter. Like picking up the mail, sorting through your inbox, sending pre-written follow-ups. Those things will be put in red. So I know I'm saying have a paper list. I know you're going to want to do this on your computer, but I want you to carry a little notepad around or a pad of paper, make this list, color highlight this list, and then the next day only focus on the green. Now, the other items still need to get done. So we want to add somebody on staff or we want to start building a job description for somebody to take care of these items as they cluster together. Now, I go into more details in my staffing arbitrage program, and you can engage me to work with you on that program. But the key is what we're doing is those red items, you've got to stop doing them. And if you have somebody else do those red items, that's not even as high a priority as having someone help you with the yellow items, because anything that frees up time so you can do more of the green items, which is client services, generating revenue, serving real people, the better you're going to be able to grow, the faster you're going to be able to increase your cash flow, the cleaner you're going to get to $1 million plus agency that allows you to have more lifestyle, more enjoyment, and as a copywriter, do more of what you do best. If you're bogged down in the bookkeeping, the project management, the routine administrative technical issues, the setup part, for example, you can convince a client that they need analytics set up, but you may not have the skills to set the analytics up. So again, you just bring in a subcontractor and they'll take care of it for you under the criteria that you established in the project. You have billing rates and upcharges so that everybody gets paid. It just works out that way. Now, again, I'm coming to you with years of experience, understanding these models, working on teams. At one time, I had 27 teams out working, and each of those teams could have 10 to 100 people working on the job. This was IT services. That same model worked when I'm doing marketing. The same model works today when I'm doing consulting, and the client gets a better solution. The client gets a solution that is more complete, more accurate, and more desirable to them, primarily because they get more of your time and more of your intelligence. And that is what it's about. It's billable hours over busy work. And that's what we're here to help you with. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, and this has been about that focus on the client in a way that gets you more billable hours, but ultimately better serves the client so that you can justify higher rates that cover the help you need for the items that you're probably not very good at, but that you need in support roles. Starting there is the first path to agency. And once you have agency, you can start expanding those teams. But again, if all you do is free up 3 to 5 hours a day, or have a more consistent lead flow, or have more consistent client assignments, then this advice pays for itself. Now, you're on the podcast. If you want to work with me directly, visit www.adbriefings.co.uk, where you can go to the contact page and ask your questions. Join a free newsletter, which has a lot of more insights on it, or otherwise engage us as a paid member. I want to thank you for being a part of what we're doing here today, and I'm looking forward to your questions. See you next time. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips.